NFL insider Josina Anderson breathlessly reporting with much outrage in her tone that a quarterback coach, an NFL quarterback coach, a team drafting, she says, in the top seven, referred to Shedeur Sanders as coming off as brash and arrogant in the team interview, and made this assessment known to a number of people. Gasp. Oh, horror of horrors. Yeah, so she's upset by this, and she's outraged, and she couldn't believe it, and she was running to defend Shedeur Sanders, and then there was a mixed reaction. So I wanted to give my 10 cents on this. Let us discuss NFL quarterback coach accused of saying that Colorado's Shedeur Sanders was brash and arrogant in combine interviews. Is this inbounds or out of bounds? So I've got Coattails, Calvin Klein, and Hammer. And we'll bring all of these things together, and we are going to make some corned beef hash is what we're going to make. Some delicious corned beef hash. Enjoy. Yeah, it's really good. All right, so my first thought on this, talking about the Shedeur Sanders story, is after a brief booth review, inbounds. Okay, inbounds. I don't think it's illegal to have an opinion that goes against the norm, and I don't even know if this goes against the norm. I find it bizarre that this NFL insider was running to passionately defend Shedeur Sanders, almost like there's some kind of investment in getting, I don't know whether she's got connections with Deion Sanders and she's trying to protect the source or something like that, but it seems a little bizarre. That's the kind of stuff that drives conversation. You want differing opinions. You do not want the same opinions, because how boring would that be? Now, I have no animosity towards Shedeur Sanders. I loved the story of Deion and Shedeur at Colorado, but Shedeur Sanders didn't look very good. Most of the time I watched him play at Colorado, I did not sit there and say, this is an NFL quarterback. In fact, I thought the opposite a lot of the time I watched Shedeur Sanders play at Colorado. So let's call a spade here, right? His scouting combine, the news conference, I don't know about the private interviews with the teams and the get-togethers and all that, but the news conference for a lot of people was cringeworthy, right? It was like he came across as a smug, entitled, cheeky, I'm trying to think of other words I can say, but he just didn't give a good vibe as someone that just is really just putting the work in. He's a guy that is the son of an NFL star and grew up that way. That's his world, which is you expect. But there wasn't any humility there at all. I didn't sense any humility. Maybe I missed it. I only saw part of it, but he did come across, and the words brash and arrogant certainly seem proper. I don't think it's out of bounds. I think it's inbounds, as I said. Regardless, let's not paint the quarterback Shedeur Sanders is some kind of like victim here. Oh my God, some coach didn't think he's that good. Every single player, whether good or bad, there have been differing opinions. There's never a consensus on anyone. I think Patrick Mahomes is the gold standard for quarterbacks. When he was coming out of Texas Tech, people were like, well, he was a loser in college, and he's a gunslinger, he's not really that good. There were people that believed that. Andy Reid and the Chiefs thought he was better than that. Turned out they were right. Jalen Hurts, many, including yours truly, did not think Jalen Hurts was going to be very good, and Jalen Hurts now has a Super Bowl win. But it's rather silly to get all worked up into a lather about an opinion that you don't like in the combine or leading up to the NFL draft. And certainly Shedeur Sanders, you can't fight the fact that he is the beneficiary of family privilege. That Shedeur Sanders, because of who his dad is, Deion Sanders laying the foundation, it's great. You know, my dad was in ham radio. If my dad was in real radio, I'd probably be doing morning drive somewhere. I'm not. I'm doing overnights, right? But that's the thing. Shedeur Sanders, because of his last name and because of his father's stature and all that and the star power of Deion Sanders and whatnot, you look at riding the coattails of your pops, and this is a how-to guide that Shedeur Sanders has written. Because when you actually look at the scouting guys, and I've been getting into this as I've shared with you in recent episodes of the show, I've been reading these scouting guides for the draft, and say a lot of this is bull crap, who knows, but these losers spend all their time scouting and coming up with these reports. And so the draft profile on Shedeur Sanders, he has an average arm talent by NFL standards, holds the ball for too long, below average mobility, and the college numbers, while they weren't amazing at Colorado, even those are questioned. They say that 19.7% of his pass attempts at Colorado last year were screen passes. He's a screen merchant, Shedeur Sanders, and that is the most of any quarterback in his class. So he threw the screen pass more, and this is one of the things we talked about a while back, is the argument is that Colorado's offense was just dink and dunk, and there weren't a lot of challenging throws. And while it certainly enhanced Shedeur Sanders' performance to a point, he did take too many sacks, you're not likely to get away with that and have any success at the NFL level. But based on the consensus of several of the draft guides that I have paid attention to, they say Shedeur Sanders has a mid-second round grade. That means he should be drafted in the middle of the second round, for those of you a little slow in the back of the room. Yet, if you look at so many of the mainstream mock drafts, which you can wipe your tush with, Shedeur Sanders is projected as the number 2 quarterback and likely to be drafted in the top 10. That he will be drafted, if he falls down, somewhere in the top 10 still. So how exactly does that work? How does it work? Shedeur Sanders, I guess now he can use this as a rallying cry. They didn't believe in me. You know, athletes, they love the haterade. The thing that drives the athlete is the negative opinion. That is the thing. The critic is the one that drives. The most important element to this is the critic. That's the one that matters most. And so now he can say, I proved the doubters wrong, because one person had a different opinion. Now, secondly, more chatter from the scouting combine, the fallout, and that includes that Miami, I say Miami, he played more at Washington State than Miami, but Cam Ward has now solidified himself as number 1 quarterback in the 2025 draft over the previously mentioned Shedeur Sanders. So can you put that into context? All right, so I'm going to put this into context here. Think of this like Calvin Klein cologne obsession, right? There is no way around the fact that the NFL, my entire adult life, is a quarterback-centric league. And so what happens is you prop up suspect quarterbacks because there is a supply chain shortage. Therefore, a draft that does not have an A-level or really even a B-plus level quarterback, you end up propping up guys that, not a lot there. Not a lot of meat on the bone. Now, Cam Ward can step right up and be at the very top, and a lot of the noises, he'll be either the number 1 or number 2 pick in the NFL draft next month. And in a normal year, Cam Ward would be drafted maybe late first round, most likely in the second round, high second round pick. And much like Shedeur Sanders, the scouting report is not kind to Cam Ward. It's not all bad. He's an electric playmaker and got this mix of arm talent and mobility, and those are all cool things. But he's below average by NFL measurables, right? He's not the usual prototypical strong-arm, tall quarterback. He's not that. So he's below average in the height. He also has poor pocket presence. And the one constant I have seen for years in the NFL draft, is there anyone teaching quarterbacks how to avoid sacks? Like, none of them know how to avoid sacks. This is another scouting report. This guy takes too many sacks, much like Shedeur Sanders. His turnover-worthy play rate, whatever the hell that is, sounds bad, above 3%. Above 3% every season. And despite 3 years as a college starter, 2 for Washington State, 1 for Miami, despite all the games he's played in, he's unpolished. He's unpolished. So he needs to get some polish. Work on that, work on the polish part of it. And but again, much like Shedeur Sanders, he's benefiting from the shortage of quarterbacks. And so the lack of inventory drives up the price, kind of like when you go to buy eggs. And they had to get rid of a bunch of eggs because there's some kind of viral illness killing chickens. And so they had to go out and they had to raise the price of the eggs, allegedly. Maybe they're just jacking up the price because they want to make more money. But typically every year for the last 10 years, 2 or 3 quarterbacks are overdrafted and overrated. Some of my favorites, Kyler Murray. Alligator Arms Murray, who we said was going to be a bust, and he's been a flop. Half a season. He can't make it through a whole season playing elite football. He's good for about 7 or 8 games, and then either he gets hurt or he just sucks. And that's pretty much been consistent every single year. Baker Mayfield, another guy, put up some good stats here in Tampa, but not a big-time winner, and certainly Baker Mayfield, the guy that was overdrafted coming out of Oklahoma. And so we'll see what the future holds here for Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. Now, final thought. We head to Philadelphia, the afterglow, the champions of the National Football League, the reigning Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles. Coach Nick Sirianni defending the tush push. You know I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the tush push. I just love saying tush. I'm a fan of the tush push. So speaking on some Barstool podcast, I don't know what that is, but he said Steph Curry, is the analogy used, Steph Curry shouldn't be allowed to shoot threes, Nick Sirianni said. Only in the fourth quarter can Steph Curry shoot threes. Like, what are we talking about? The Eagles coach said, questioning the idea the Green Bay Packers are trying to ban his iconic tushy-pushy. He said, you can't just make a rule up because it's benefiting one team and everyone else is not quite good, not quite as good. Close quote. All right, so Eagles coach Nick Sirianni comparing the tush-push ban to the NBA prohibiting Steph Curry from shooting three-point shots. Is that a good comp? So we're going to play the Wheel of Fortune. Can I get an N and can I get an O? I'd like an N and an I. Okay, I got an N and an O. Good. All right, yes. No. No. Because there is more skill involved with a three-point shot. Even though most of the time I watch these NBA games, no one plays perimeter defense. There's like 1 or 2 guys in the whole league that play perimeter defense. So they're pretty much wide open shooting three-point shots. But the answer, we gave these bird brains the answer. It's the hammer dunk. That if the NBA said no more hammer dunks, can't do it. Not allowed. Now, they pretty much ruined the dunk contest because the players are wusses and they don't want to embarrass themselves, the star players, so the dunk contest sucks. Now you've got guys from the G League that are like multi-time champions because none of the real players in the NBA want to take part in it. But that's a different conversation. But this is the perfect analogy. Somebody let Nick Sirianni know, send him a copy of this. The NCAA banned the slam dunk for a decade. 10 years they got rid of the slam dunk because they said the dunk was not a skillful shot. Much like the argument that the tush-push is a rugby play, it's not a football play, it's a rugby play. And the Rules Committee in college basketball also claimed that there were more injuries as a result. Now, some NFL coaches have said there are more injuries because of the tush-push, but the NFL itself has said that's not the case. The data proves no one got hurt because of that. But the NCAA claimed a bunch of people got hurt. They called that the Lou Alcindor rule. Eventually became a guy named Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but at UCLA he was Lou Alcindor, and so they prohibited players from making shots above and directly over the cylinder.